Welcome to Hair Love is Mastering a Silky Blowout. This is a tutorial on how to actually blow your hair out, keeping your curls intact when you wet your hair again. The first thing you'll want to do is grab your products and tools. What you'll notice as we move into the video is that I have all the products and tools I use for this particular look. I have metal duckbill clips, a rat tail comb, the Crest 619 magic comb. I use Bass 100% boar bristle brushes. My Denman brushes for when I comb out or detangle in the shower. I use the Cibella shampoo and conditioner in the coconut and argan, and the Affirm foam wrap lotion I use for this particular style. What you want to do with the Affirm foam wrap lotion is apply the styling aid to each section. I want you to notice how much I'm actually putting on each section because I'm going to create a wavy curly look. And so I'm putting 3 to 5 pumps in each section of the hair and then combing through from the scalp all the way to the ends. And I have to do that in each section. So that's a lot more product than is ever recommended on any product instruction. 3 to 5 pumps I did in each section, and I have about 8 sections all around my head. Notice as I'm wrapping up each section, I'm tucking in the ends. You don't see any loose ends. When I go to clip this, I'm like, oops, not quite. The end is exposed. I go in, I tuck in that end, and then apply the clip. Now, why this is so important is because you want to make sure as you go to start blow drying that the ends aren't exposed, because when they dry out, they get crinkly or crimped. You're going to part your hair into sections, brush with, and maintain tension. Remember, it's tension that straightens the hair, not heat. And move your brush and the nozzle together the entire time. If we could stand with the brush in one hand and no blow dryer and hold it taut, and it would finish and dry silky. The dryer is applying heat to actually dry the hair more quickly while we have the tension in the hair. That's your healthiest blow dry, is you're using the tension, not the heat, to straighten the hair. And notice that my boar bristle round brush, the bristles are all the way around, and important to be all the way around because they grab the hairs. We're not winding the hair up into the brush. We're actually just laying the hair across the top of the brush. But I'm using this Moroccan oil infrared blow dryer to blow the water out of the hair. But I make sure the brush position is key, and that the entire time the nozzle is moving with the brush down the hair shaft. The nozzle is always pointing in the direction of the ends. That keeps the cuticle aligned, and the cuticle, remember, is the outside layer of the hair. That keeps the hair with a silky finish. And I make sure that my nozzle is moving with the brush. If I stop the brush, I move the dryer off of the brush so that I'm not just applying heat to the hair. Now, another thing that you'll notice with each section I'm going through is I get all the way to the ends. I don't let that hair snap back and recoil. 1, because if it recoils, it tangles, but 2, the tension is what is creating our silkiness. So I have 4A, 4B hair, and what you're watching is a blow dry that reveals a substantial amount of silkiness in the hair, mostly just from the tension in the brush. The steam that you see coming out of the hair is 2 things. 1 is water. I'm using an infrared dryer, and the infrared technology dries the hair from the inside out. We have airflow, so that is impacting the outside of the hair drying some. But what's nice about the infrared is it's steaming the water out from the inside of the hair shaft, which makes infrared technology great for highly textured hair because the hair isn't getting pummeled as much with heat. The outside layer of the hair isn't getting pummeled as much with heat. I'm holding the hair in a different direction now just because, and the dryer in a different direction because my arms are getting tired. So you'll also recall that when I had the tools that I showed you, there was a towel on the counter because at times you just got to be able to take a break. And you want to avoid getting in a situation where you're perspiring. I have a window open, which you'll see a window open to the left in another shot. But I take my time and I'm working my way down to the ends of the hair with the tension being applied by the brush. These brushes make the blow dry really goof proof. You don't have to have a lot of skill to create the silkiness. It's simply the brush is grabbing the hair and you're moving the blow dryer along with the brush. Now, as we move on to the next section, what you'll notice is that when I take a break, I actually have to, which I have to do, I have to take a break because my arms get tired. The sections will dry out some. That's just a natural thing that happens, but you always want to start with the sections being soaking wet. So I have to re-wet the hair. You'll notice me spraying the hair with warm water. And even though I spray with warm water and I spray it enough that it actually needs to be wrung out, it's like drippy wet, and I lean over here, you'll notice, and I kind of squeegee out the rest of the water into the sink. You'll still notice that because the top of the hair was not as wet on the inside, I don't get quite as silky a finish. Part of this is because I have a different texture in the front of my hair than I do the back. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm aligning the nozzle to the brush. You want a dryer where the nozzle will spin. You can turn the nozzle without the nozzle falling off. That's a characteristic of a really good blow dryer because you need for the nozzle to be parallel with the brush so that when you move the two together, you don't have air going places where you don't have brush. You want the brush and the hair to move always at the same time and in the same direction. Now, if you have a dryer that the nozzle doesn't have a condenser on, that won't work. You need the condenser to actually keep all of the air flowing in the same direction. Even if you're not going to use infrared heat, I actually am working with this dryer on medium high. The high I found to be too hot for the speed with which I was blow drying my hair, and I'm actually pretty fast. I encourage you to just feel comfortable taking breaks. If you find that you're starting to get tired or perspire, just stop, because it's counterproductive to be sweaty and trying to blow humidity out of the hair. Also, having the window open and the humidity able to escape the room is really key, because all of the water that you're blowing out of the hair winds up in the room. So you want to make sure that as you're blowing the steam out of the hair, that you have a way for it to escape. And one of the things that you see by way of the smokiness is related to steam. The other is product. The styling aid that I was using, the foam wrap lotion, does have a bit of silicone in it. That's okay. It's a styling aid. The hair was soaking wet. It's not likely to have a negative impact on the hair for that reason. You'll now notice that I go in and I use a super small brush to silk in the edges and close to the scalp, or the roots as we call it. And I do that with a tiny brush because it lets me get in close and keep the tension. So I pick up a much smaller brush. I don't go all the way down the hair shaft because I don't need to. At the point at which the hair is dry, you don't need to kind of keep going over it to remove more and more moisture. At first, you actually are going to take a break and allow the hair to, the rest of the moisture to seep from the inside of the hair shaft to the outside of the hair shaft, by resting the hair, as I call it, for a few hours. So I just clip my hair up and then I allow for the evaporation time to commence. I was going to bed, so it was very easy for me. I just clipped my hair up and went to sleep for the better part of 8 hours, but allow at least 1 to 3 hours of time for the water that's on the inside of the hair shaft to evaporate or wick out to the outside of the hair shaft. This is a lot of times the cause for frizziness, is we blow our hair out and then lo and behold, we think we're done. The hair feels dry, but the inside of the hair shaft, remember, is like a sponge. And if that sponge is still damp, as that moisture wicks out to the outside of the hair shaft, we get a frizziness about the hair. And sometimes that doesn't take very long to happen at all. So you really need some downtime. A hack for this is to sit underneath a hair dryer 15-20 minutes. Then you'll notice after I actually come back in the morning, I'm going to apply a silicone sealant with oil. Yes, silicone and oil. I'm using the Cibella Nourishing Hair Oil, and I use a lot of it. And then I use an infrared styling tool, the Amica Polish Perfection brush, to push more moisture out of the hair after that hair has had the resting period. So let's take a peek here, and you'll notice what happens in the morning when I come and I'm actually just dropping the hair and getting started. These are the tools. Still my duckbill clips. I'm using my rat tail comb. I didn't mention the extension cord before, but that's important because if you're not really close to your outlets, sometimes these tools don't have quite enough reach. I also am using the Cibella holding spray, which you'll notice I have used the classic and the intense hold spray at different points for the curly look that I'm creating. So this is the morning, and I begin with putting the silicone and oil agent on the hair. Again, silicone at this point because it works very, very well with heat and reduces friction. And the point is you want to seal the hair at this point. You really do want to kind of put those strands of hair in a baggie, so to speak. And by putting it on before I go in with my infrared brush, I'm going to steam out the rest of the moisture and allow this product to be dragged all over the hair. So you'll notice I'm brushing with one hand and then holding with the other hand. So I'm maintaining the same process of actually creating tension while I'm brushing the hair. Still mindful of tension straightens the hair, not heat. So I can't just run the brush through with no tension. I actually make sure that as I'm pulling through, I have some tension in the hair. So you'll notice here, brush in one hand, hand holding the ends on the other side, and I'm doing that throughout the entire head. What you see pushing out is now more water. And I know it's water because I have a silicone product on the hair that would not likely be giving me much smoke, and an oil that is also not going to be smoking off at the temperature with which I'm using this particular brush. My brush is set at 380, I think, when I'm going through and doing this. My recommendation is always for your styling tools for highly textured hair to stay below 400. All right, so I then put another layer of silicone and oil on the hair after I've gone through and pushed out that last bit of moisture. The last bit of moisture getting pushed out is kind of similar to if you were washing a pair of jeans or had towels in the dryer. You thought they were dry, then they cooled off or sat for a while, and then they seemed like they were damp. Same thing happens with hair. The outside of the fiber is dry, the inside's not, and then after some wicking, you notice that the outside of the fiber starts to feel a little damp too. Your hair might not feel damp, but that's what the frizzing is telling you, is that water came from somewhere, and most likely, if it hasn't been pushed all the way out of the hair shaft, it was in the hair. I add a holding spray or thermal styling spray. I use for this look, the Cibella Classic Hold Spray. It's an aerosol. With highly textured hair, we don't want to introduce water back this time. So while I love Kenra's thermal styling spray, it's among my favorites. I had it on my bench when I would work with developing styling products. I absolutely think that when we're doing our own hair at home and we've gone through the work of blowing it out, having water is the enemy. And so I use an aerosol and try to escape and walk away after I spray the hair. Then to begin styling, I use the metal duckbill clips and section with the rat tail comb. You'll notice the rat tail comb, I comb all the way down to the ends of each piece before I actually use my styling tool. I'm going for a modern spiral wavy look. so it'll be a somewhat unstructured look. But I comb first all the way to the ends of a section, and then I grab my curling wand. I'm using the Amika Autopilot, which I absolutely love. And the reason why I love the Autopilot, set at a temperature of 390, I believe. It's the medium high heat, which is still pretty hot. I love the Autopilot because it allows us to easily put the heat on the youngest, strongest area of the hair first, twist out to the ends, and then pull out. Now, what that does is it makes it so that the ends are seeing the least amount of heat. With this particular wand, you'll notice I'm continually just turning the barrel at the bottom and it twists. So it's a really cool tool that uses a process of kind of Marcel irons, but modified into something that anybody can use just by twisting the barrel. I pick up pieces and I take each piece in a different direction because I'm looking for a really modern, unstructured look. And with this fast-paced footage, it's not as easy to tell, but as soon as I get to the end, I'm pulling that wand out of the hair. I'm not allowing it to sit for a while. As soon as I get to the end, it's coming right out. You don't need much heat. I'm also using the wand near the edges to give the edges some smoothness, and apply that process over the entire head. Each piece I pick up, I just curl in a random direction. I don't worry a lot about trying to have the hair go in the same direction. That creates more of a Jessica Rabbit type look, which is great if that's what you're going for, but I'm looking for something kind of messy, modern, and unstructured in this look because I want to be able to wear it for a series of days, probably for 3 or 4 days before I shampoo again. And that means I want it really curly the first day, and then I will have less curl the next day, and then less curl the next. And in some instances, I wind up even braiding it up and creating a wavy look. So the Autopilot makes it very easy to control the temperature. Sometimes you have to check and make sure that temperature, your temperature doesn't slide down. It won't heat up on you. That's the good news. But you can hit the button and it'll actually, in some instances, get a little bit cooler because every time you hit the button, it cools down, which is a nice feature because it would be a shame for it to accidentally heat up. Now, the finishing touches involve putting a firmer hold spray on the hair all over to seal the hair, and more silicone and oil for shine and softness. Now, the softness is to soften up the holding spray that's been added to the hair. How we test holding sprays when we made holding sprays was to put holding spray on a curled piece of hair, put it in a humidity chamber, and see how far the curl fell. Like mark where it was when we put it in, and then close the humidity chamber, and then see how much that curl sagged. So what holding sprays are doing are actually, how it holds curl is protect the hair from humidity. And so you really do, even if you don't want a crispiness, you do need to have the agent that's in holding spray on the hair in order to avoid your frizz. So the magic is in finding the holding spray that's a soft enough hold to give you the seal that you want without you winding up feeling like it's not as soft as you need it. I know I have many women that say, oh, I don't like hairspray because I don't want it to be crunchy or crispy. It doesn't have to be crunchy or crispy. And then coming behind your holding spray with a oil and silicone blend also is a way to create a softness in the hair. And so you'll notice that's what I do. Also, I want you to notice that as I'm applying that product to the hair, I actually do a move where I am I'm patting the hair. I'm not dragging my fingers through the hair consistently because I don't want to pull the curls out. So that pat, or actually just clapping the hair between the hands to actually apply the oil, is a great way to make sure you get application without actually creating separation in the curls. For the final look, what I am doing is I'm just grabbing pieces. Sometimes I may add a little bit more spray, but I'm just creating a messy, unstructured look and I'm ready to roll for the day. This look takes about 25 minutes to create, which isn't bad, especially given that the curls hold for a few days. Now, you will also notice that can't necessarily tell that window's open right now, but the window's open because it is hard to breathe without having the window open when you're working with styling aids. Now, what about the next day? Part of the Silky Blow Dry is how to get it and keep it, right? So to preserve your look, you want to pin curl or pineapple your hair at bedtime. Either of them will work. You could wrap it as well, and then do a takedown and reapply styling aids as needed. You always want to use a shower cap because that will create frizz so quickly. I'm not so much worried about the ends when I'm doing this pin curl at night. This is me in the morning taking my hair down. I didn't put the ends in because I don't want the ends to actually be super curly. I want it to maintain that kind of modern, messy look. And it's just wound up, twisted, and with one big bobby pin across the hair. I fluff it out and put more styling aid in it, and I'm ready to go. So morning 2, it takes me a full 2.5 minutes to actually create the look that I'm trying to achieve with my hair before I get started and do my makeup. So that's the deal on how you create a Silky Blow Dry. Thank you for joining, and I do hope you've picked up some valuable tips and tricks. I'll see you in the next session.